ago, same thing happened last year. Next time I'll have a book out in semi-pro. Actually, I don't have a copy of the book. No. Thank you. Don't worry, I'm not going to read it. There are a number of people who are responsible or to blame for this book, and a couple of them are in this room. This was sort of my attempt to, I'm going to sit down for a little bit. This is sort of my attempt to do something in the style of the books that I really loved when I was growing up in my most formative years, reading people like Wallace Stroby and Donald Westlake and Brian Garfield. I don't know if anybody knows his stuff. Those books really came to me at a very important point in my life, and there were certain times where they sustained me. And I always wanted to write something in that sort of minimalist, no-nonsense vein, where you sort of, it had emotional content, but you did the characters in very quick strokes, and then you got the story started, like pushing a car down the hill, and then if it worked out, it would sort of take off by itself. So this is my attempt to do that. And it was the first time that I ever felt safe enough to do that. And one of the reasons why was that Megan Abbott, who some of you know, is sitting in the back there, being hidden. She and I are both friends with Charles Ardai, and at one point, Hard Case Crime. And at one point, we had talked with him about doing a project. And Megan had talked to him about doing a project, which became her book Queen Pin, which won the Edgar for Best Paperback Original. It's a terrific book. It was her third book. And it was unrelated to her first two, and it was very much sort of it was a period noir, very much written in a style from that period. Terrific book. And when I read that, I thought, well, okay, now she's doing something that she wanted to do now. It's different from all the other stuff. It's almost retro, has a retro feel to it, but it's still very much her. And it took some of the pressure off. What's the next book? What's the next book going to be? What's the next big thing going to be? And when she did that, I thought, okay. And so I had originally conceived Cold Shot as my hard case book. Of course, I don't come up with ideas that often. And the idea of doing a book on the side became quickly just untenable. There's no way that was going to happen. So I sat down and I wrote this book I've wanted to write for years, called Cold Shot to the Heart, which is about a female criminal, a female professional thief. And in some ways it's a traditional plot for that type of book, but I wanted again to write about a woman in a man's world, like I'd done with Going to November. And it seemed to me like this was really a professional criminal in the man's world. And so the idea of putting her in that environment sort of got me excited and allowed me to steer away from some of the stuff that I knew, because I had to bring all these new considerations into it, her relationships, and how she would interact with people. And I got a great scholarly book called Armed Robbers in Action. If you're ever doing research on armed robbery, it's a great book. And it was done at University Press, and it was a study of armed robbers and the differences between them. And the one thing it said about female armed robbers is that without exception, they're all brought into the life by a man. Their lover or whatever. And I started thinking about the Sam Peckinpah movie Getaway, which is a movie I love. And the Ally McGraw character in that, who's sort of the partner of the Steve McQueen, who's a bank robber. And then I thought, that would be cool if it was somebody other than Ally McGraw. If it was somebody who was like stronger, who was really like his counterpart, then that would be interesting. And that's sort of what the gist of it was. So I read an interview with Lawrence Block about a month ago, and it was about crime fiction in general and its value. And he said, a good book can get some people through a couple very bad nights. And I thought about that, and I thought that's absolutely right. And if this book gets some people through a couple bad nights, I've earned my keep. That's the way I look at it. So the book has no dedication. The book has no acknowledgments. It is just boom. I just wanted to start it. So anybody who should have been thanked and didn't get thanked, I'm sorry. It was, yeah, I wasn't being prejudiced against anybody, but I'd like to thank Robin Rue, my agent,
for that.
and Kelly Ragland, my editor, and I'd like to thank Hector from St. Martin's, who's teaching me about this internet thing. I don't think it's going to catch on now. I'm reluctant. Yeah. And I also want to introduce, for some of you who don't know him, there's a couple excellent, there's more than a couple, but there's a few excellent writers in this room. Dennis Tafoya over here, he's a Philly-based writer who wrote Dope Thief and his new book, Wolves of Paramount Park. Kelly introduced us in Baltimore a couple of years back, took us out to dinner. And since he's from Philly, not from New Jersey, she was surprised we didn't already know each other. No! You're from New York, so he said, no, I'm from St. Louis. Jason Starr is still hanging around in the back there. I have to say, although I hate to boost his ego anymore, one of my favorite writers. And I think one of the funniest writers works today. The only guy who's really got the black comedy thing down. Reed Coleman, terrific PI writer. His new book is Innocent Monster. He's sipping a beer. He's totally wired because he just got in at 2 a.m. from Detroit. And Megan Habit, of course, some of you know. She's got a book coming out this year called The End of Everything from Will Brown, Mulholland, which I'm very psyched about because all the books are terrific. And I want to thank everybody from the store, really. Otto's not here, but Ian and Dan and Sally. And somebody just walked in I want to introduce. When I took a buyout from the Star Ledger in 2008, and Jen here is another Star Ledger staffer who's no longer there. And one of the other people that took a buyout at the same time was our organized crime writer, a guy who'd been covering organized crime for, I think, 25 years. And at one point, the Ledger had 2 full-time organized crime writers. One of them is here. His name is Guy Sterling, and he was a organized crime writer. He left the same time I did. When they found out he was taking his retirement, a group of New Jersey mobsters threw Guy a retirement thing, which he took me to as his guest. And when you read the book, you'll see I gave him a little bit of a shout-out in the book, because this night changed the way I look at that stuff forever. It was, he knew some of these guys, and he knew these guys because he'd covered them for years. I didn't know whether to talk or shut up. I didn't know whether I should be, trying to get involved in conversation or just keep quiet. Would they think I was rude if I was quiet? So I didn't really know. But I grew up in a working-class Italian neighborhood, so I thought, well, these are working-class Italian guys. They just never worked. But if I sort of stay in that mode, I'll be okay. And it actually worked out. I never wanted to write about traditional New Jersey Italian organized crime again after Heartbreak Labs, because they just become such a cliche with The Sopranos and all this stuff. So there were some gangsters in Cold Shot, and I made them Serbians. I don't know where I got that from. Like an episode of The Shield or something like that. I mean, I knew nothing about it. I just wanted it to be something different. And so I started writing this, and it occurred to me, I've never even met a Serbian. I mean, I had no idea. I don't know anything about it. So I was kind of kicking this around, what I was going to do. And then a guy took me to this dinner, which was at a restaurant in North called the Belmont Tavern, which is kind of notorious. I found out afterwards. And this night, just listening to these guys gave me so much material. I had to be very careful with it because I didn't want either of us to get whacked as a result. But I owe Guy a huge debt for that. And everything in the book is fictitious. Nobody is somebody else. It's all strictly fictitious. And Guy, if you hear from any of these people, that's what you tell them. So thanks a lot for coming, everybody. I hope everybody gets something to drink and hangs around and talks a little bit. I'd love to talk more with everybody. And most of all, I hope you like the book. Thank you.